Well, welcome everyone. I am delighted to welcome Dr. Elouise Epstein and Drasko Jelavic to, I don't know what we're calling this, a sort of post-breakfast chat about the world of category management. I mean, for the benefit of everyone who, and I can't believe there aren't any who haven't heard of either of you, perhaps you'd like to give a quick introduction as to who you are, where you've come from.
Hi, so I am Elouise. I'm a partner with Kearney. I'm based in San Francisco. I've been with the firm almost 23 years. And I do digital procurement, and I spend half my time doing strategy work for the biggest companies globally. And the other half of my time is spent researching, writing, and public speaking about the procurement profession, which I absolutely love.
Which is a good job you're here. Drasko, how about yourself?
Well, I'm a CEO of cirtuo, also have a top management consulting background, so spent more than 25 years around sourcing, category management. In the past 10 years, we actually developed category management technology to support category managers to efficiently execute and develop category strategies.
Perfect. And I'm just checking, because you're ex-Kearney as well, right?
Indeed.
So did you ever cross paths together, or?
No.
You did?
We were both, when he started, well, he started a little before me, but also when we were younger and junior, you're more separated, geographically separated, so.
Got it. Okay, well, it goes without saying, Kearney was probably the first consultancy that really began to get to grips with, I suppose, the application of category strategies in procurement. I mean, I guess, the key question for me is, if I was going to ask to start at, where do you see category management at the moment? I mean, what state are we at? Is it kind of still relevant? I mean, I'm going to come to you second because I can see you itching to answer. What's your view? I mean, you're playing in the space now as a vendor, but I mean, exactly. What's your take on category management as where it sits?
Exactly. I think there is a way to go. The way how is it done today, mainly in Excel and PowerPoint, is actually traditional way. And the business requirements have changed significantly, and the world has changed, and there is a disruption. So actually, procurement and category managers need to get much more closer to the stakeholders, and it got all much more complex than it was in the past. Right. So it's probably impossible to manage it with the Excel and PowerPoint.
Okay,
So I'm going to give you the totally opposite answer.
Yeah, go for it.
Because to me, category management has been on a journey, and it's actually over. And we are moving on to the next generation of category management. So I like to joke that category management's dead. And because we've spent decades chasing PowerPoint, putting a SharePoint, trying to create dashboards. And then Drasko actually came along and automated it and made it so that you could just click a button and have a category strategy, which has fundamentally reshaped how we think about category management, which means, Drasko, you killed category management.
Well, there we go. Now there's a place. Okay, so just before we get into what that means, dead or evolving, If I mean, I, like you, I've spent my time playing around in lots of different environments, and the observation is category management has changed. The way that we do it has changed. If I've got one big observation, it's that if you go into most procurement teams, they've never quite actually delivered what category management was saying. I mean, what stopped? In all the different forms that it's come in over the last 20, 25 years, what stopped procurement teams actually realising the benefit, or if I was going to put it shortly, doing it properly?
I think it's relative to the profession. Yeah. And we have spent so long chasing cost savings, chasing data, that we haven't actually matured. Right. And so at this point, you're not going to set up these. Why should you train and build organizations in category management when there are tools that can actually literally just do it with a press of a button? So then the question is, because back in the day, we used to design category strategy teams that were 10, 20, 50 people. Like, I don't need those people, because to do category management, because at the click of a button, and that button's going to get more sophisticated over time, I hope, and I presume. And so why do I need all those people? What are they doing? Why train them in yesterday's skills? Because they weren't really that effective before.
Right. Drasko, just sort of picking up on that point, because you've made that leap from the consulting side to being a technology provider into that space.
Exactly.
But if we're saying that it hasn't quite delivered, what's been the issue? Is it that we were big teams of people who weren't able to do it before and somehow technology is going to push it out of the way? Or is it the process, or is it just the big thing that procurement still hasn't got that dreaded seat at the table that meant that it wouldn't matter how good your people or process were, it was never going to be or hasn't been regarded as thing? I mean, what's your view on what stopped procurement achieving what it promised over the last 20 years before we got on the topic of whether this new way of doing it is actually going to change that at all? What do you think?
I think all of this is actually correct. At the level of expectations, we set expectation on procurement, and this is how procurement actually educated stakeholders to expect to deliver savings, right? So we were all about cost reduction in the past couple of decades. This is how we educated category managers. This is what we expected from them. These were the goals. So actually it all boils down to cost reductions, more or less, right? Procurement and category managers do have the insight that they deserve the seat at the table, because they have the insight on the market, about suppliers. Actually, the supply chain is today defining the art of possible. What can you do in your business depending on the supply side, right? But it was difficult to make that transition, right? There is missing skill sets, leadership, methodology to really make it happen. So the good news is there is an insight. Procurement can do and should do more. The question is how to achieve the transition from a sourcing-minded procurement or procurement-centric attitude to the attitude where you actually have to work with the stakeholders and identify and align all the business requirements, because this is what defines your category strategy and any other strategies in procurement.
Like it. Okay, so we're going to get onto the topic of AI and tech, and we touched on it a minute ago. But it's interesting, both of you picked up on this genesis of procurement really being about cost reduction and delivering savings, and we all know there is only so much of that you can do. And the pandemic probably taught most of us that that was one of the least important things. It was simply trying to keep anything working. In your view, given the complexity of what a procurement team now has to deal with, so not just spend data, which we all know is still terrible, environmental legislation, societal legislation, every kind of child modern slavery law under the planet, and visibility of global supply chains, is it simply a case that we've run out of the ability to even cope with that as Homo sapiens, and that if we don't introduce AI, we've simply got no chance of keeping up? I mean, what's your take on that?
I think we have to separate AI out of that discussion. I think what you just lined out is an ambitious agenda for any large corporate enterprise. We are putting a tremendous burden on every enterprise. I'm not letting them off the hook. I'm just saying, if you have 30,000 suppliers, you all of a sudden have to manage risk, you have to manage cost, you have to manage ESG, this cascade of legislation, and 40 other things. That's a lot of data to collect, manage, and process. And you alluded to it at the beginning of that question. We don't even know where we're spending our money. That's like job one. That's job zero. And we should have solved that 20 years ago. We technically did, and so we're still struggling with that. So the job has gotten bigger. And I think the capabilities have not kept pace with that agenda. Right. And so I think the only way forward is to use more sophisticated tools and to bring that to bear, because we're not going to hire enough people, and even if we do, they're not going to stay long enough to meet that ambitious agenda.
Right. So I'll come back to you separated it. So I'll come back to the AI in a bit. But I mean, look, Drasko, this is close. I know this is close to your heart. This getting away from a focus on cost reduction and spend. I mean, what's your take on this? As Elouise has said, this broader, overwhelming tidal wave of requirement, data, information, and what's your take as a provider into helping procurement teams deal with it? What is it? Can we cope with it, or are we just trying to do too much? What is your thought?
I think we live in a really exciting times. I'm looking forward to see the change. The business requirements has significantly increased. As mentioned, we have ESG, diversity, growth, governance. There are simply new topics which are now expected from procurement to deliver. And when you take all the business requirements and when you take the number of categories, number of suppliers, number of resulting initiatives out of strategies, when you take all the changes for all the business requirements and changes on the market, the complexity is enormous, And we believe it can be only managed through technology which will connect all the dots, all the layers of the strategy, and will actually enable humans to perform better in category management, to better mobilize the stakeholders, approach the stakeholders, resolve the potential conflicts between the business requirements, validate the strategy, and execute the strategy at the end of the day. So we see a great role of technology and AI connecting all the dots together and managing the complexity, of course, and addressing the right expectations.
So, like Homo sapiens, King Canute holding back the tide, AI, you've both talked about it. What is AI going to mean then as it lands upon that space that both of you have just described?
Okay, so we a couple things we have to level set. AI as applied to procurement is it's barely in its infancy, so we have a long way to go, and we have to but the hype machine is like this, and our trajectory is probably going to be more like this in procurement. We just have to not lose our minds because a lot of sort of AI or machine learning technology has been embedded in tools for a couple of years now. So this AI wave, and especially the generative AI wave, is good. It's exciting, but it's not going to fundamentally reshape procurement today. That's my belief. But I think where we get to, what it does enable, and this is when I say category management's dead, I'm really saying we need to move to category intelligence. And category intelligence is where you can pull all these disparate data sources together, as Drasko was talking about, and start to create intelligence about your supply market, about how your category is performing, when you should go to market, because eventually a lot of that will get automated. And going back to the cost savings thing, that's why I don't anchor on that, is eventually cost savings will come through automation, either autonomous negotiating bots, or marketplaces. I think marketplaces are more likely, but we are seeing some of the bots. But it doesn't matter. The cost savings will happen automatically. So the real differentiation in and around cost savings will be in the category strategy.
Got it. So this idea of category intelligence, this access to information and ability to make decisions.
Just to reflect what Elouise mentioned, because I fully agree. I mean, we delivering guided strategy creation, AI enabled. We have a lot of AI experts in our network, and all of them are actually quite cautious about the predictions. How is that going to fuel and support procurement, and especially what we do, right? So. Of course, AI will enable the process. It will make it more efficient. As we said, the process, it's not easy to implement category management. At its core, it's a quite simple process, but when it gets to the implementation, due to so many dots which you need to connect, is actually quite significant. So AI will enable to make the analysis, to perform the analysis, to get the data, to put the data into the right context. It will enable category managers to, with the strategy recommendation, which we actually do today with our guided strategies creation solution. So that's where the AI, there will be a nice combination, nice mix of artificial intelligence, human intelligence, and market intelligence to support that category strategy and supplier strategy creation at the same time.
Okay, I'm going to give you a final question.
Can I respond to that?
Of course you can.
Because I actually want to build on that. Because if Drasko can give me all of that today, that's still only half the equation. Because you mentioned seat at the table, and ultimately business is about relationships. And so if Drasko can give me that, then the question is, how do I use that to influence my product teams, my other executives? And that's the change. And that's like, if you give me that information, that's the change. That's the second part of the equation where we have to go do this.
And I could not have asked for a better segue to my final question. Because, right, Elouise, you mentioned right at the start that the need for people, big category management teams, is going to diminish. So if we roll forward and you deliver that category intelligence, that pull and analysis and then push of decision grade category intelligence, which enables people to then go and deliver that agenda, that delivery of value in the business. What does it mean for the kind of people and the composition of teams in the future procurement team enabled by that kind of technology? Because there's a skill set historically, but what do you think it looks like? And I'm going to come here first. What do you think the procurement manager looks like in the future?
I think you have to take all the legacy skills, throw them out the window, because in many ways they've been automated and consolidated down into the push of a button. So I think going forward, I do think every procurement person needs AI skills, or I'll call it, and talk about this tonight, is algorithmic literacy.
Yep.
And so we need to have an equal amount of that and an equal amount of relationship development.
Right.
That's it. Like, I think that technical capability and that interpersonal, and I think also coming out of the pandemic, we have lost a lot of the interpersonal skills.
Completely agree.
So I think that's the future.
Well, I mean, let's face it, I think this is the first time the three of us have been in a room and not on a Teams meeting in, what, years?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're pushing the tech that's going to throw those old skills out the window. You've seen a lot of procurement teams and how they operate.
Exactly.
What's your take on this kind of relationship, this soft skill half of the equation?
Well, as mentioned, category management will remind a mix of human intelligence, market intelligence,
Right.
artificial intelligence. And it's more important than ever to manage the stakeholders, especially as there is a disruption, everything is changing much faster, there is a higher complexity, and there are more requirements on procurement. It has enlarged, and procurement needs to approach more senior stakeholders than they did it in the past. Normally we see category managers talking to peer from the other functions. So we encourage them to go to the more senior stakeholders to really understand business requirements and make that translation from the business to the procurement, right? So it is an important skill set which still needs to evolve. And the good news is that all the market analysis and category recommendation will be done by the tools, by the technology. But still, a category manager needs to bring that content to the stakeholders. They need to mobilize them. They need to challenge them. They need to see how it fits in the business. And that's the role of the future highly enabled, highly skilled category managers who will do that job.
AI-enabled relationship management.
Sure.
Kind of.
There we go. Well, look, on that lovely closing idea, Dr. Elouise Epstein, Drasko, Jelavic, thank you for your time and for your insights. Thank you very much indeed.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.